Everybody good? Okay. Obviously, I don't talk very much during season, so give me a minute just to kind of summarize some things and some thank yous before I turn it over to you guys. I first off want to thank Sean. What a great job and what a great year I thought he had overall. Not the finish that he or I wanted, and we'll obviously get into that, but I thought he and his staff did a really good job with the players and where we started even before the draft and then developing our rookies. If you don't have good coaches, it's hard to win in this league, and kudos to Sean and his staff. Our players, that game Saturday, as painful as it was and still is, I think you saw the fight. I've been on teams, I've had teams that especially on the road, when the pendulum swayed the way it did, and Josh got sacked, they got the ball, 4th and 1, we make a stop, Josh and the guys rally down, and not everything was perfect, we know, but they fought to the end. We get the field goal, we got a stop, we got the ball. We just, unfortunately, we just didn't get that one big play to finish it off and come home with the win, and I hate that, but I can't thank our players enough for what they did and how hard they fought all season long. One player in particular I want to talk about is Lorenzo Alexander. Many of you may not know, when Lorenzo came in the league in 2005, I was in Carolina, and he was a 315-pound defensive tackle. And to see him develop into a man and what he became, you talking about reinventing yourself. I don't know anybody that's played in the league that started as a D tackle and finished as a linebacker. And then off the field, what he did and what his family brought to this community, second to none, and will be missed. I know, talking to Lorenzo, and he sent me a great note yesterday, he still wants to be a part of this community. That's how much this community means to him and his family. So I think we'll all be blessed with that. The Bagulas, Terry and Kim, Sean and I are very fortunate. You see things all over the league with ownership that changes or doesn't fully give the support that a coach and a GM need to be successful. You guys see it here every day. You walk in, you see that weight room that we got last off-season, the funds to build our staffs, to build our analytics, to build whatever we're trying to build. It's been a big change from 3 years ago when Sean and I got here. I know we got here at different times, but they have never batted an eyelash at what we need, and I know that won't change going forward, so a big thank you to them. And then I want to finish up with our fans. I'm just blown away by our fans, and I know our players are. I've never heard players talk so positively about their fans, because we know, especially in the social media world, fans can be very passionate and there could be a lot of negative energy. We lose that game the other night. I was just shocked how many people at 2 or 2:15, whatever time it was, were out there with signs, cheering. If you just walked up on that scene, you would have thought we won the game. And, I get emotional because I felt bad for them. And I feel really bad that we didn't win that game. And, you go back to Nashville, Miami, and Houston. Like Nashville, that game, that was like a bowl game. Like it was, their team does something good, you hear that side of the stadium. Our team does something good. It truly was like a neutral field. And to have Bills Mafia, Bills Nation support us that way all season long, it's unmatched. And I'm very appreciative. Our players, our entire building, and I know Terry and Kim are as well. So apologize I got a little bit emotional, but I feel bad that we didn't get that win, but I promise you our guys are hungry and we'll be back.
Brandon, as you begin the process towards the 2020 season now, what are the biggest areas of need that you see to get this team over the top?
Well, we have to keep our defense strong. They had a really good year. I would say you got to be strong in all three phases. We want to be better on special teams, and our special teams I did think improved from a year ago, but we're not happy with that. And then offensively, we did show some improvements statistically and obviously, we'll talk about Josh, but Josh, improved, and we scored more points. But at the end of the day, we didn't score enough points. And a lot of times, if you make the playoffs, your last game is kind of emblematic of if you don't win at all, whether you go to the championship game or you lose like we did, a lot of times it kind of shows you how your season went and where you're good and where you got to get better. And I thought we saw that we just didn't score enough points.
Brandon, you've been here, you and Sean, 3 years, and really all 3 years, the offense has been a bottom quarter of the league in terms of, yards and really points. What is holding, it's 3 years, what's been holding it back? Why can't you get over the hump and at least get 20 points a game? What's holding it back?
Yeah. I'm going to look in the mirror first, to be honest with you, and just there's things like always, what can I do better to get our roster better? I think if you're talking all 3 years, first year we came in and it was our first time around Tyrod, and, it was a different offensive coordinator. So I don't think you can totally count that. We made a decision at that point that we were going to draft a young quarterback. So I would really look at it as the last 2, Sal. And, a rookie quarterback in 18, and honestly, I didn't do a very good job in 18. Now, part of that was where we were in the salary cap. There were some restrictions I had, but there's things I could have done better to give us better upfront protection. I think we hurt Josh a little bit on that, and we honestly didn't plan on him to play as quick as he did, but that was, the best move for us at the time last year. I think it paid off, but I think it was painful early on. And then this year, we improved in a lot of areas, but it takes time. There's a lot of, we had, I think, 9 new starters. That's probably not ideal. We talked about at the beginning of the year how quick, you guys asked me how quick, that O-line's going to gel, how quickly Josh will gel with Cole Beasley and John Brown. And I brought in Tyler Croft. Unfortunately, he had the injury setback. So Dawson Knox he's cast in the forefront and did a lot of good things for a young player, but I know there's some plays he left out there that hopefully will get better. I think it's a combination of things. Year 2 in Brian Dayball's system, I saw improvement, but Brian will be the first one to tell you that there's things he would want to do as well. But I think we at least took a step forward, but we got to take another step, to your point, Sal.
The fan base to which you referred is clamoring for receiver help, and the clear thought is Josh will become significantly better. Offense, the scoring will become significantly better if this team gets big-time help at receiver. Do you agree with that premise? And is that, if so, do you see this offseason as that being a critical place to address?
Vic, it's a great question. It's one of the many positions that I think we need to try and get better. I don't think we're not going to go in and just throw a bunch of money and throw everything and at receivers or anything like that. But we're going to try and find. Well, obviously, the first place we'll be looking is we'll be going to these all-star games and seeing what's there. And free agency's first on the calendar. So we'll take a look. We're already looking at that, but sometimes guys re-sign or get franchised, things like that. But no, that's a fair question. But we're not just looking at. I don't think we're one player away from. I never think you are, and I definitely don't think we're one player away. You lose the first round of the playoffs, that doesn't say to me the Bills are one player away from being exactly where they want to be. But that's definitely a position that we're going to look to see if we can find, more talent.
Obviously, the shown growth, he's delivered in some clutch situations. Maybe there's been a lack of consistency. And what happened, in the second half of that game Saturday, and how he kind of unraveled in a couple of situations. As a talent evaluator, what's your view of where he's at right now at the end of year 2, heading into year 3?
Yeah, I think Josh is a young player, and overall I'm very proud. Thing about Josh, we had our exit meeting with him. He's the first to, you don't even have to start going down, areas of improvement. He's got them. He's very aware of where the things he does well and the areas. And I think we saw that if you just take it back before we go to what happened Saturday. When he walked out of here a year ago to when he came back in the spring, you all that were at practice and training camp, and then obviously it carried over into games, he improved in a lot of areas. Is he perfect? Is he where he wants to be? Is he where we want him to be? No. But he's got the DNA to continue to improve, and I have no doubt he is disgusted, like we all are, that we didn't finish that game and come out with a win. I think, you can talk about playoffs, and you can't simulate it, Adam, until you play it. And I think sometimes Josh, he wants it so bad that sometimes he tries to do too much. If we're not moving the ball at times, I think that's probably one of the things he's got to work on, is still playing within himself. I think he tried to put all 45 other players on his back and do things that maybe are a little bit out of, he shouldn't do. And Deshaun Watson made some great plays. I'm sure he's seeing what's going on. Well, man, he's making some great plays. I got to go do it. I'm sure it's all in there. He's a fiery competitor. And I would much rather have those errors than check down Charlie, being timid. You know what I'm saying? All those types of things. So I'm very proud of Josh. I have no doubt that he's going to come back an even better version of himself in April.
In that sense, how do you?
Go ahead, John.
How do you keep him? How do you maintain? How do you coach that out of him? The hero ball, perhaps. And how do you? Is it just from experience, or is there a worry that this is a hump he can't get over?
I don't think there's a hump that Josh can't get over. I think he's so determined, and he can. People say you can take coaching or criticism. Josh truly takes it. Like, he wants it. He wants the feedback. He doesn't get his feelings hurt. He knows every question that you guys are asking about him. He knows. Like, he's very in tune. He knows it when he does it. I know he comes off the sidelines like, I know I can't try and force that ball. I know I've got to protect that ball. If it's a sack fumble or whatever happened. I think at the end of the day, it's maturity, and again, it's me doing a better job of increasing the talent around him too, so that he can trust, have more players that can trust and make plays for him, where he's just got to get the ball out, hand it off, do whatever, and not feel like he's got to do too much.
Brandon, it seemed like
Coach said more than once that
I got you next, Joe.
you gotta keep this roster, he wants to keep this roster as intact as possible. I realize there are decisions therein that you have to make to accomplish that.
Yeah.
But with that in mind, do you feel the lift for you and your personnel department this offseason might be a little bit less than what it was last year, when you had to bring in a slew of offensive players? I'm not trying to make light of the work you gotta do, but do you
Yeah.
think it's less of a lift this offseason than maybe last year?
Yeah, we're going golfing next week, Chris. No, I don't feel it's less. I really don't, because we probably won't be spending at the deep end of the pool that we did last year, where we were. It's still up to us to find either pieces to compete with what we have or pieces that can upgrade. And you can get guys that are minimum contract guys. You can get guys that are, low tier type, kind of middle of the road. Those sometimes are as important or more important than those big ticket items. So no, we very much understand, and we'll have a meeting this Thursday with our coaches and some of our personnel to truly kind of just uncork everything that happened all season long from start to finish with our players. And we have to have a real assessment of where we see them and how they finish and what our vision for each player is going forward. Is this a guy that's on the decline? Is this a guy that's ascending? Is this a guy we can win with, or is this a guy we have to upgrade from? We'll have some frank discussions. We won't all agree with each other, but that will kind of lay the groundwork for what our next steps are.
I'll try to ask it a different way. I know you guys are big on getting the people with the right DNA
Yeah.
on your roster. Over the last few years, do you feel you've done that where you're better positioned to kind of tweak more than overhaul?
Yeah, I don't think we're looking at an overhaul. I think last year offensively was an overhaul, to your point, Chris. But we are going to look, under every rock to find competition and upgrades where we can. And but we're going to still, my philosophy's not changed. We've got to draft, develop, and sign our guys. And we're now getting into the area where, guys that have been here 3 years are up for contracts. We have some guys that, that we claimed that are free agents. So all those discussions will commence here real soon as to guys that are potential free agents. Do we want them back? And then can we work it out with them and their agent to come to an agreement on financial terms?
Brandon, that said, do you anticipate trying to work out a long-term deal with Tre'Davious White this offseason?
I don't really get into contracts, John, but I'm very proud of Tre'Davious. He's a guy we want here for the long term. He's exactly what I just said. Draft, develop, and he has developed and is still developing. I think he can be better than he even was this year. The thing I was real proud about Tre'Davious this year is most of his play has been steady the whole time. This year he took the ball away, which was big for our defense.
Brandon,
Hold on, let me get a Joe real quick.
You referenced Josh trying to do too much. It seemed like after the Week 4 game against the Patriots, since then he did a lot better job of it. Why do you think it came back when it did in the play?
Again, I think, the momentum had changed. And I think most of the things that he did, in the second half was when the momentum changed and I've got to make a play for this team. And again, that's his first time in the playoffs, and I think he'll learn from it. I have no doubt he'll learn from it. I'm as convinced today as ever that Josh is going to be a better version of himself next year. It's hard to play quarterback. It's the hardest position, and I know everyone here and obviously everyone in this community is focused on our quarterback, but I study quarterbacks from other teams as well and see how they do. And I'm very proud of where Josh is at.
Hey, Josh, defensive line, you've got some issues. You might lose Shaq and Jordan Phillips. You've got Jerry Hughes, going to be 32, I think. Murphy's going to be 32 away. Is that an area that you really have to kind of hit this offseason in both draft and free agency? Is it an area of really specialty, I guess?
Yeah, I do think, and that was my point to Vic earlier is, when he mentioned receiver, we're a lot of positions away that we've got to clean up or answer, whether it's re-signing a free agent, some of the guys you mentioned, some guys that are aging. We do want to continue to get young. We added some young guys last year in Ed Oliver, and Harrison Phillips will come back as a young player. I know everybody probably forgets about him because he got injured early in the year. And then, Darryl Johnson, I thought did some really good things. Didn't get as many reps being the fourth guy, but, showed some promise. And I think a year, just him growing and learning, I think he'll offer more next year. But, yeah, we do have to pay attention to that. We believe in being strong up front, Sal, so we'll definitely have to pay attention.
On the edge, do you need a dominant edge guy? Because really, your guys on the edge this year were pretty good, but you don't have that Von Miller, that DeMar. Do you need one of those guys to make this defense?
You'd love to have one, Sal. You really would. There's not even 32 of them, though, one for each team. So if, I promise you we're looking for those guys and would love pressure in the quarter. If the quarterback's on his backside, he can't do too much damage to us. So we want to be strong up front. We want to stop the run, things like that. But at the end of the day, there's only so many, Von Millers and that type of player that you mentioned.
After what you saw from Cody this year and the way the roster is structured, do you see him long-term as a tackle, or is that still to be determined?
Yeah, I love Cody's versatility, and Cody got some great experience this year. I think if you look at rookie tackles across the league, over the last few years, very rarely do they go out there and just dominate and you don't look to help them at all. And I think Cody had some really good moments. He had some moments that he learned. Just take his situation, playing at Oklahoma, never being in a three-point stance, It's a big change to then do that. He's not facing DeMarcus Lawrence, Von Miller, J.J. Watt. You can't replicate that stuff. We can try to tell him to practice it all day long, but until you go through it and feel that speed in an away stadium where you're going off silent count and that guy's coming off the ball the same time you are. At home it's a little bit easier because you can time up your cadence. On the road you can't. You're out here on an island. You're trying to look back at the ball. You're trying not to jump. Overall Cody did some really good things. I would say we love his versatility, and we like that with all our O linemen. John Feliciano did a great job this year when Mitch went down a couple times of being able to jump in at center. So we just look at him as a versatile piece. I'm not going to stamp him in as tackle or guard. We'll see how it plays out this offseason.
Sorry, Brandon, do NFL teams need elite quarterback play in order to win a Super Bowl? If so, what did Josh show you to make you believe that he can get there?
Yeah, I mean, we don't win 10 games without Josh Allen, first off. He did a lot of great things. Was everything perfect? No. Elite quarterback, it's a quarterback league. So if you do have elite quarterback play, it definitely ups your odds. I don't want to sit here and say you can't win a Super Bowl without an elite quarterback. There have been some cases, but generally speaking, Josh, most of the teams that advance in the playoffs year after year, and the teams that are steady, winning their division, have good quarterback play.
As a follow-up to Josh's question, there's a general school of thought that I've been told among NFL personnel people that with young quarterbacks, jump from year 2 to year 3, that oftentimes is when the most progress is made. Given what you've seen from Josh, is that your expectation for him? And the fact that he's got a postseason game under his belt, how much does that help potentially?
Yeah, I think it does help. I think that was one of the things that I was excited about, making the playoffs. And I mean, I wish I wasn't up here right now. I wish we were still preparing for another game. But that he now has one playoff and a road playoff game under his belt, you can't replicate it, Adam. And so I have no doubt that Josh is going to come back. He is so hungry, so determined he knows he has doubters. He knows all the people from the day he was drafted and still today. And he understands that's the world we live in. He could play 3 good games, but the first time he has a bad game, all the naysayers are going to jump on him. He is self-aware. He understands what he has to do. And, again, Sean and I, we have no doubt that Josh will come back here an even better version in 2020 than he was this year.
Brandon, were you satisfied with some of the, Sean addressed this earlier, but were you satisfied with some of the answers you got from the controversial calls in that Texans game? Where do you go from there as far as is that good enough, what they told you?
We can only control what we can control, Leo. That's the best thing I can say. I don't agree with everything, but I always look at it as what we can control, and we do try and learn from it. We do reach out to the league to understand why calls are made so that we can teach our players and coach them better if it is a foul that maybe they still say is a foul or is not. But things happen. There's human error all the time, games. But if we make certain plays, maybe it doesn't come down to a controversial call. That's probably the best way I can do it without losing any money in my wallet.
Brandon, when it comes, Sean was up here stressing continuity and keeping the team intact. I know you want to add competition at positions, but what is the importance and how much do you feel this team is in place and you need that group moving forward? So I guess continuity being the issue.
Yeah, I do agree with continuity. The more cohesive you are out there, this is the ultimate team sport, John. And I think I don't know what Sean said, but I know how we think. I would say we want to keep as many intact as we can, but we wouldn't do it in spite of upgrading, a clear upgrade. But if you're talking about I'm bringing in a guy who with a similar skill set, why would I do that if this guy can do it? I'm looking for if we're going to change out guys, other than people that leave in free agency that we can't control, we do believe in continuity, and we want to keep as many of this core, these guys that we've drafted and spent time developing and learning our system. We do want to keep them, and that's our plan here. So hopefully we'll just be able to add some pieces here and there to help us take the next step, John.
Can you give us an overall assessment of your rookie class in terms of their contributions this year?
Yeah, we'll start with Ed. I thought Ed, did a really good job, first year. He came out, and I thought he had a really good camp. I think when we got into games, maybe early on, he was swimming a little bit. In fairness to Ed, at Houston, he played just over the nose. Playing the 3-tech was different. And so I think once the game started slowing down, I think the best thing that happened was he had Jordan Phillips here, and Jordan had stepped up his game. And so, we play who's earned it. And Ed could have sulked, he could have moped. He took it in stride, and I was very impressed, and he picked his game up, and I think he ended the season playing well. And, I'm hoping this will be a very good offseason for him entering next year. We talked about Cody. Devin was our next pick, and I thought Devin had a really good year. I hate he had the hamstring setback. I think that hurt us a little bit and slowed his development. But you saw it as the year went on. He began to get more and more touches in the games, whether it's the pass game, or the run game. Dawson, I briefly mentioned earlier, I thought he did a nice job being thrown in as a rookie. For him, it's probably a blessing. Tyler got hurt, so he got more reps. Not all those reps came out the way he wanted, but again, he got experience. He made some big plays for us. I think we'll all remember the Cincinnati play he made when we were down in that game and needed a big one. But I know he'll be the first to tell you he left a few out there, but like where he's at, and what a pro. I got to think of who's next. Vashon was out. Jaquan did a really good job on teams. Got a chance to play in the Jet game, and did some good things. Would have had that INT if we didn't have the penalty. And then I mentioned Darryl earlier. And then Tommy Sweeney, talking about a guy who played early. Tyler comes back. He played in the Jet game against their starters and made some big plays for us. And it was a tough decision, whether we would activate him each week and even into last week going into Houston.
Brandon, with regards to Frank Gore, how do you weigh what he brings to the room and what he brought to maybe his leadership with Devin versus what was some pretty noticeable declining statistical production over the second half of the season?
Yeah, good question, Jay. I love Frank Gore. I think I told you when we signed him I was a fan, and it's funny when I was looking up something on Lorenzo, I was like, I think this is almost the same age as Frank. May of 1983, you're talking about two tough dudes that were born on opposite ends of the country. But Frank was just, he brought so much, and I don't think Devin has all the success that he had this year without him. To where he goes next, I'm not sure. At the end of the year, a guy at his age, it was super awesome to watch him climb into third, in the rushing stats. But we'll let him decide what he's going to do, and we'll self-inventory ourselves and make a decision. But nothing's been determined from him whether he wants to continue playing, and then on the other side, whether we would have a spot for him back.
Brandon, since you got here in 17, how do you think that the perception of Buffalo has changed from a free agent standpoint?
It's funny, last year I had to defend Buffalo up here, I think, didn't I? I think that, people understand and see what we're building here. I think people across the league see that we have a young quarterback that's developing and growing. I think that those can be attractive pieces. You look at what Green Bay did all those years with Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers and that group. If you have a quarterback, someone to build around, I think those are attractive things. I think people see that we play selfless football and we have guys that are going to fight. Not everything was pretty the other day, but I thought you know, it was a good show that this team's going to fight 60 minutes, 60-plus minutes on Saturday, and that we're hopefully considered, you know, a young team on the rise and an attractive place. I mean, it's not for me to determine, but that would be the part that I would sell for anyone that was looking at Buffalo.
Brandon, you worry about fans expecting too much. You and Sean both know from Carolina, it's common for a team to win double digits and then not finish over 500 next year.
Yeah, I actually, good question, Jerry. I mentioned that. I don't talk to the team at all except kind of at the end of the year, beginning and the end. And I mentioned that one of the big tests for teams that start making the playoffs is other coaches, when you play them the next year, will use that as a measuring stick. This is a team that won the division or advanced in the playoffs or whatever. So you're going to get everyone's best next season, and you have to be prepared for it. There's no sneaking up on anyone or people underestimating the Buffalo Bills. So that'll be a different test, and we didn't always answer that in Carolina, and Sean and I talked about that. That will be something that we'll definitely focus on this offseason into training camp.
Sean mentioned the need for urgency this offseason. How do you balance that as you're making roster decisions? You've had such a patient approach in your first 3-ish seasons. How do you balance that while also, you know, maybe sprinkling in some of that urgency but not getting carried away?
Yeah, I mean, urgency is defined in a lot of different ways, I'd say, Matt. You know, I don't think you're going to see us go crazy because, again, it goes back to that one player away. I don't think we're there. We have to continue to build it. And as much as I'd like to have 3 drafts within 4 months apart or something like that and just continue to draft a bunch of young guys and add them into our group, you have to be patient and you have to still do it the right way. If it's going to last and be sustained success, we want to be urgent in our approach. We want to press our guys. We want to turn every, you know, switch and button that we can to win as many games and make it much further than we did this year. But you know, we're not changing the plan. We're still going to draft, develop, and sign and sprinkle in free agents where we need holes. But I wouldn't expect us to make some radical trade all our draft picks or do anything like that. We got to get this player to get us over the hump.
How important was it for Josh to have stability at offensive coordinator from year 1 to year 2? You look at the 2018 class, not everybody did, obviously. It turned out differently for those guys.
Yeah. No, I think, you know, going forward, you know, a lot of our guys on offense will be back, and so I think that will help. I do think continuity, you know, to John's question earlier, is important, and we've had more of that, more stability. Of the 3 phases, we've had the most constant on defense, and I think that showed in the stats. And we've got to build that continuity on offense, and I think year 2, well, and this will now be year 3 in Brian's system, but it'll be year 2 for John Brown, Cole Beasley, a lot of these O-linemen that we brought in. So you got to think that we'll be able to pick up at a different place in April and May when they get back than where we were a year ago when they were just having to learn the play calls and where to line up, if that makes sense. Does that answer, Sal?
Yeah. I'm just wondering from Josh specifically, from year 1 to year 2, because you see so much upheaval with other quarterbacks around the league and new OCs, new quarterbacks, coaches, how much that really helped him if he would have had another OC from year 1 to year 2.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. You've seen some of these quarterbacks over the years. I don't want to mention their names, but you guys know them. They get talked about where this is, you read about it, this is the 4th coordinator in 5 years, the 3rd head coach or things like that. And I think that's what's great about Terry and Kim. Back to, you know, when I came in and interviewed, he talked about stability for this organization was probably the thing that it lacked before, and that was the thing that needed to get fixed first. And that goes for all of us, but it definitely helps Josh, and hopefully we can continue that, you know, with him and Brian and Ken Dorsey now in year 2 and as many players as possible.
Brandon, you project $89 million in salary cap space, and that number could change based on some moves and decisions you make. When you hear that number, how much flexibility does that give you? What's your interpretation of that amount of money to work with?
Yeah, I mean, it gives you a lot of flexibility the more cap space you have. And now, obviously, we want to begin, re-signing some of our own guys and putting those funds there. So I don't know what it'll be by the time free agency, and then you got to hold money for the draft. But it gives us a lot of flexibility. I love to have money in the bank if we need to make a move in August, September, whatever. Sometimes when you're cap strapped, you can't do that. So it's currency, just like draft picks. It'll allow us to do what we need to do to get better. And we're not going to not be able to sign a guy or not be able to trade for a guy because we don't have the cap space. And we want to be cap strong as long as we can. Hopefully Josh continues to ascend, and hopefully he makes us pay him some of those hefty salaries that, at that time, which we want to be able to be in cap strength to handle that as well, and not all of a sudden sign a quarterback and then have to release 3 other players just to stay under the cap. Does that make sense? Sure. So it's not just that $89 million that you're referring to this year. It's making sure we're cap strong in 21, 22, and beyond.
What was your view of the seasons that Shaq Lawson and Jordan Phillips had heading into free agency?
I'm sorry, what
was your view of the season Shaq Lawson and Jordan Phillips had heading into free agency?
Yeah, I was very proud of both those guys, Jay. I'll take Shaq first. We didn't pick up his option, and that can go one of two ways. He could sulk and, I'm out of here or anything like that. Shaq took it in stride, and we challenged him and told him, listen, Shaq, us not picking up your option has nothing to do with us wanting you here. It's just where we are at this time. We would love for you to have a great year and sign you to a long term. So I was very happy with Shaq, and we'll obviously talk to his representatives. Jordan, I thought Jordan really stepped his game up this year on the field, but also bringing some young guys along. I thought he was good with Ed and just showing him some different things. And I think Jordan still got room to grow. Again, he had a career year sack production, so he's earned the right to see what his value is on the market, and we'll just have to see where that goes.
Brandon, do you feel like your roster is in a good enough spot where you now have the option to potentially get into the compensatory game?
We're getting there. I would love to say we're at that point where we're going to get them. I think they do help you. We've had to use other avenues, whether it's trading a player, at the end of camp or things like that, to add some of those picks that you can get. The more we can continue to draft and just re-sign our own, and then when you lose a few and not have to dig into the free agent market, it helps. I think we're getting there, Joe. We don't have a lot of free agents this year, so I'm not sure this is the year. But I think in time, as we build this, the teams that have taken advantage of it have been the teams with stability, not having a bunch of changes. We're still early in this, going into year 4 of a total rebuild. So I think Sean and I will get there with that, but I can't say this will definitely be a year that would happen.
Quentin Spain said that he told his agent that if you guys want him back, he'd like to get something done before free agency. Not to get into him specifically, what's your philosophy on that, though, Brandon, as far as if you identify one of your own guys, would you like to, or do you want them to have the right to go and see and then come back to you?
Yeah, I mean, if you have a guy that you want, whatever player it is, you'd love to go ahead and get something done before they get to free agency. But I also respect the business part of it. We have to make business decisions that are sometimes painful, because you get around these guys and you love them and you appreciate what they've done for you. I don't hold it against any of them if they say, hey, I really want to be here, but I want to wait a little closer to free agency and get a feel for my market, because maybe I don't think where your offer is at, I think I could get more, or I just want to make sure before I commit. Some guys are like, I just want to be here, and that's what I want to be, and that's great for us or whatever team they're like. A lot of guys or their agents may say, hey, let us see what's out there, and let's circle back, closer to free agency. There's different times, these agents fill out and find the market. So any guy that says, hey, I definitely want to be here and we can get on the same page of their value that we want, we'd love to go ahead and get them done as soon as possible.
Brandon, what's that say about this organization and where it is when you've got guys right when the season ends and say, look, I want to be here?
That's what you want, Josh. It's much better than the alternative, where they're speeding out of here, leaving skid marks, in the parking lot. So, no, I didn't know he said that, but that's great to hear that Q said that, and we'll see where that goes. Very good. Thank y'all. Appreciate it. Thank y'all.